right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of your favorite movie podcast, the lace-tie, Nazi-defying key lime pie-eating duo who will never look at a peach the same way again, Forced Perspective. This is episode 103, Oscar Mania 2018. I am your host, Sports Guy 515, and at long last, our annual Oscar Spectacular is upon us. On this episode, we will wrap up reviews for the remaining Best Picture nominees: Phantom Thread, Darkest Hour, Ladybird, The Shape of Water, and Call Me By Your Name. Afterwards, we will get into our Oscar predictions and run through each category with our picks for the winners on the night of March 4th. For all of that good stuff, allow me to introduce my co-host first, my normal Forced Perspective co-host, a man with the charisma of both Winston Churchill and Armie Hammer rolled into one. Ladies and gentlemen, Adolfo.
But really only looks like one of them. You decide which one.
That'll be up to our good listeners there to figure that one out. But last but certainly not least, returning to Forced Perspective, our very good friend, a man more respected than Reynolds Woodcock with double the talent, ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Draven.
You know, if Arnie Hammer was gonna be showing his legs as much as he showed them in that movie, he should have hit the gym a little bit, man. Because there was a couple of twigs. I got tired of seeing them twiggy legs for an hour and a half. No, 2 hours. That was a long ass movie.
I sat there through most of that wondering what Dr. D would think of this, bro. Like, legit.
The thing about so I'm seeing because they don't really outward say it. I mean, I think in passing they say it, but the film takes place in 1983, and I'm watching this film. I actually watched it. I just finished watching it a little while ago, and he's wearing this very disturbing shorts throughout the entire movie. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? It wasn't until later, bro. Yeah, it wasn't until later on where it's okay. It's the 19. Okay, that's the fashion. That's fine. But for a while, I was programmed to 2017. I'm like, what? Are they walking around like this? But no, it was in 1983. So
and
yeah,
Italy, it's European, bro.
Yeah, them Euros are a little more liberal. So yeah, you're right.
Exactly. But we'll get more into that a little bit later on. But anyway, everybody, welcome to Forced Perspective. This is probably the show that I look forward to the most every year. We get into the Oscar predictions. We get into the best and worst of 2017. But before all of that, I just want to catch up with you guys. It's been a while since we've done a show. A few weeks. I think, Adolfo, since you and I did one. Draven, I haven't talked to you in it feels like years. So
yeah.
So what's going on with you guys?
Well, I mean, with me, we're not gonna really talk about K-Fabulous because it's on a hiatus. It could be a month hiatus or it could be a permanent hiatus because I decided to go back to school, and doing that, and also I'm doing some. I kind of help out with some of the local non-union productions here in LA as well. I tried to get back into that as well. So I'm just really busy, and then I got my full-time job. So I'm focusing on that for now, but it's been pretty cool. I like to stay busy. So
that's good, man.
And let me say this to piggyback on that point. I opened up my list here, and this is either something to be proud of or something to be incredibly embarrassed about. We'll let the listeners take their pick depending on their personality. Guess how many films I saw last year? This is it just hit me right now. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. I saw, and this includes like revisits from over 2 years. That's my limit. Like if I haven't seen a film in over 2 years and I watch it again, I put it on the list. If it's been less than 2 years, I don't. I saw 692 films in 2017.
Ooh, this guy.
The last one that I saw, obviously I have the cutoff point in December 31st. I saw the RoboCop 3 commentary. That's what I wrote on here. and guess what I opened up with 2018? The Batman and Robin commentary. That's
that's one of my favorites, bro, where he's literally like apologizing for the film like the entire time. Say,
yeah.
See this toy? You know, that was a toy right there. See that toy over there? I love every time he says that. He called the Batmobile, like everything in that movie was a toy. And
yeah.
It was funny, bro. I love that.
So
I love that
I don't think I'm
ever
gonna
read
that
the
over again.
commentary.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what I've been up to.
You got me beat. According to my letterbox, I logged 331 films last year, which is my personal best right now.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm trying to get one a day to get to 365, and I keep going up a little bit each year. But every day when you have a toddler running around, it's a little harder to fit one in.
That's right. Yeah, it definitely helps not to have kids because I usually have a day like one day a month, like maybe on a Saturday where I don't go out or nothing, and I just literally I'll watch like maybe like 8 films just to catch up on everything, that kind of piles up. So that's how these numbers start racking up after a while. And so yeah, but no, 300 plus is pretty good for a cinephile, man. That's something to be proud of. I don't think 692 is something to be proud of, but 330 it definitely is something to be proud of.
Oh my God. I mean, I wish I knew how many I saw last year. I was probably nowhere near the amounts of you guys, but I mean, I have been keeping busy myself. I have been trying to kind of get back into the swing of things as far as doing some writing, doing the show, watching
Yeah.
some more stuff, and I'm kind of more laser focused than I have been in a while though. So it's good. I'm fired up. I'm pumped up for the future, and I'm probably gonna start just to kind of, maybe we should make this like a permanent thing for the show. Every Oscar special, we come out with our numbers of how many we've seen in the past
Yeah.
year. Like I want to start writing my shit down now. I mean, I'm already like a month in. I haven't written anything down, but I'll see if I can go by memory.
Just go on
Like,
Letterboxd and log them that way. It's easier.
Yeah, yeah, I have them on Google Sheets, but Letterbox is easier, and it's part of a community there. So I just don't think I have that kind of discipline, but because I just write I just write the title, and I guess that's all you have to do, right? Adolfo, just literally write the title, and that's it, right?
Yeah, you just type
On
it in.
Letterbox.
Well, yeah, and then there's like a little. Let me go there. If you go to like a title, let's say, was the last movie I watched in 2017 for whatever reason was The Full Monty, and you just there's a little button that says like I watched this film, and then you click it, and that's it, and then it logs it for that year.
Okay. Yeah, I should open one of those.
So now here's a question. So let's say I'm channel surfing and I come across, let's say, I don't know, The Godfather, and it's like halfway through, and I watch from that point on till the end. Does that count?
I wouldn't count it.
You wouldn't count it. Okay.
No,
But
it
it's
has to be
it's-
something you have to sit through, I think, from start to finish.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's a start to finish thing.
But you know what I do count, because I watch everything from like basement fucking horror that has like no budget and all. So I do count background films, and I don't think I should, because sometimes I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like I'm doing something around the house and I have it on, and I still put it on there, and I don't think that's fair to the filmmaker or to me. But I just do it anyway. So I should stop doing that, because
No
that's
wonder you
really
got to 600.
yeah, that's really that's not really fair to anything, because I didn't get anything out of it. It was in the background the whole time, and next thing you know, I see the credits roll up, and I go, okay, well there's. But I mean, at the same time, you also kind of you gauge whether it was gonna be interesting or not. You know what I'm saying? Because any film
Right.
that's interesting, I just get captured by it, and I'll start watching it. So, but anyways, yeah,
I hear you. Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. But but before we start, also shout out to everybody listening on iTunes
yeah.
and on the YouTube, since Adolfo has now started putting up the episodes on his YouTube channel. So shout out to everybody on YouTube and on iTunes as well. So let's get into the swing of things. So Oscars, as of this recording, are about a week away. My marathon, my 24-hour marathon, my tradition that I've been doing since about 2011 now, is a week away. So as of tonight I actually came back from seeing Call Me by Your Name. So as of tonight, I've already seen all of the Best Picture nominees at least once. So going into the marathon next week, it'll be my second viewing for most of the night. I think except Get Out. Get Out will probably be my third or fourth. I can't really remember. But yeah, so let's wrap up these Best Picture nominee reviews, and we're gonna start with Phantom Thread. And I just want to say right now about this movie, we're covering Phantom Thread and Darkest Hour first on purpose, because I feel like these are the two that probably shouldn't be Best Picture nominees, and we're gonna get into why in just a few minutes. But Adolfo, why don't you get us started with this one? Tell us a little bit about Phantom Thread.
There's one or two other ones I don't think should be Best Picture nominees, but we'll get to those later.
No.
That Phantom Thread is a I don't know when it's supposed to take place, like 1950s or 1960s in London. It's about a designer. I think he's a fictional like costume designer named not costume, like dressmaker. I guess is that what you would call it, a dressmaker?
Yes.
named Reynolds Woodcock, fashion designer. That's the word I was looking for. Fashion designer.
That's a very Quentin Tarantino-ish name right there, Reynolds Woodcock.
Reynolds Woodcock.
Reynolds Woodcock, bro.
That's the
Very
kind of
suggestive name.
Played by Daniel Day-Lewis, and what he says is his last role. But he takes so many breaks in between movies, you never know. He might change his mind.
He's a Terry Funk of the Hollywood.
Right. I mean, he the last movie he did was, I think, was Lincoln, and that was like 5 or 6 years ago. So I mean, he takes so many long breaks between movies, like he could change his mind like in 2 years. Who knows?
Well, depending on what happens in the next couple of months, you might have to put Mark Calloway in that category.
Well,
yeah, we'll see about that.
Anyway, so he's Reynolds Woodcock. He's a fashion designer. He's very kind of particular. He's very serious about his work. And then one day he meets kind of like this kind of plainish woman from like the countryside, and that he kind of starts to become infatuated with. I don't want to say he falls in love with her, but he becomes infatuated with her. Like he feels like she's his muse. And then she eventually comes back to like England with, or I guess they were already in England, but to London with him, starts living with him, starts kind of inspiring him to like make different dresses and all sorts of this. So he kind of sees her as a muse. She is more in love with him than he is with her at the beginning. And then there's kind of where the romantic tension comes from, is like her love for him, but he doesn't really want to change his ways. He's very set in his ways. He wants to do things the way he does them, with or without her. But he also doesn't want her to leave. There are several points in time where she kind of starts to drift away or starts to kind of do her own thing, and he gets really jealous and goes to bring her back. And then that's kind of just the setting of the film. It's just this relationship, and really the movie should be called Toxic Relationship, the movie, because it's a really fucked up relationship from pretty much both ends. Like the way he sees her and the way she sees him, and the way they end up kind of resolving their relationship. It's a really fucked up. It's very fucked up. As far as my quick review on it goes, like I think this movie is kind of like it's better. How does the phrase go? It's like it's not as good as the sum of its parts. So like there's a lot of great elements to it, but as a whole, to me, it doesn't work. Like Daniel Day-Lewis is fantastic. Like the woman who plays his like girlfriend, I forget her name. She's really good. Leslie Manville, I think it plays
great,
a sister. She's awesome. The music is really good. Like the costume design is really good, which it'd have to be. It's a movie about fashion. The costume design would have to be really good, right? Cinematography, beautiful looking movie, but it just, like, when you put it all together, to me, it doesn't make a great movie. Like, there's great elements to it, and I certainly like it way more than the last Paul Thomas Anderson movie, Inherent Vice, which I fucking hated. But
I hated that movie, bro. I hated that movie.
I fucking hated that movie, but it's way better than that. But it's still not on the level of like There Will Be Blood or Boogie Nights or The Master. Like, it's okay. I don't think it's best picture quality. It has great performances, great elements, but to me, not a great film.
I agree. The thing with this is that it really is, like, this was, like I said last year, Fences was the actor showcase. I think this movie is the actor showcase of the Best Picture nominees. I mean, like you said, Daniel Day-Lewis is freaking awesome. Leslie Manville is equally as awesome. I think her name is Vicky Krieps. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly, but she's the one that played Alma. She was really good here too. And the thing with Paul Thomas Anderson, to me, PT, like, this is a guy that is hit or miss for me. There's a lot of his movies that I like, but there's also some that I'm really not fond of. For example, I know people love The Master. I'm not really a big fan of The Master. I hate Inherent Vice, just like the two of you guys. And this one I'm kind of split too. Like, it's a good movie. Like, you know, it's a good actor showcase, like I said. But the story is just it's kind of a strange story. Maybe one that I really couldn't get invested in too much for various reasons. Because and a lot of people I've talked to too that saw this movie said that it's a movie about nothing. Well, it's not a movie about nothing, but nothing happens. And when you think about it, that's kind of true. Like, yeah, it's not really a big, like, I guess, action. I don't want to. Action is the wrong word for this type of movie, but it's not really an action-oriented movie. Like, there's not like a big plot. It's just a character study, essentially.
The thing about what you just said right now, I feel that's gonna be the theme of this show, where there's a lot of films on here that there's not really a story, and so you're trying to follow these characters, and if you don't connect with the characters, the film's gonna lose you. And this is one of those films. Like me, like, yeah, like Adolfo said, Daniel Day-Lewis was phenomenal in this film, but I'm not into the garment thing. I mean, I don't connect with that at all, you know. And I don't know why PT decided to kind of use that as a focal point. Maybe there was some sort of symbolism for him. Now, I did get into the relationship aspect only because I have my background is in mental health, and believe it or not, like Adolfo said, there is a lot of true to life relationships like this, and you start to wonder what is Alma's motivation for going back. And I think with Reynolds Woodcock, I think he had a lot of mother issues, and that's very well established because they had they had the when he hallucinates, when he drinks the mushrooms, and you could tell that he's projecting a lot of his mother into Alma, and that was very good. I enjoyed that part of the film because I related to it because I understood it, but I could see how the general audience would be like, this is like, there's nothing happening other than, he wants her and then he treats her like shit. That's pretty much what it comes down to. He tries to woo her in the beginning. He does get her, and all of a sudden he treats her like shit. He pushes her away. He brings her back, and it could get very frustrating, especially because this is not a short movie. That's another thing. This movie it's 130 minutes, man. Yeah. That's a long, So same thing like you guys said. It's like, as performance, it was good. Daniel Day-Lewis was great. The cast was good. But as far as the best picture, I just don't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to add a quick note too. I actually attended the Roadshow 70mm version, and I mean, no matter what film it is, whenever they go out and do like the Roadshow type of screening, I always go to it.
I think he also did that for The Master as well, if I remember correctly.
Well, that one, unfortunately, I couldn't go to, but I did go to the Hateful Eight one that Tarantino did. Like, I love doing those because it feels like an event. They give you like that special program and everything, and so they did the same thing for this one, and it was just a great screening. And the film is shot beautifully. We can't take that away. Technically, on all the technical aspects, the film is shot beautifully. Like, there's some great work, camera work here. And, I definitely wanted to point that out, too. But, yeah, I pretty much agree with what you guys said. Overall, it's more a showcase for Daniel Day-Lewis's supposed final film, and he knocks it out of the park. And that's really the only motivation to go see this, is to see, potentially one of the great actors of this time period, take his curtain call. So,
yeah.
All right, so that's Phantom Thread. So moving on to our next film. Another film that I feel that probably shouldn't be up here with Best Picture, but we're here nonetheless, and that's Darkest Hour. I'll take the lead on this one. So Darkest Hour, directed by Joe Wright, starring Gary Oldman, Kristen Scott Thomas, Lily James, and Ben Mendelsohn, has to do with Winston Churchill becoming prime minister during World War II, during the crisis of 1940, as it's called in history class, where essentially Nazi Germany is kicking Europe's ass, is kicking France's ass, is kicking the United Kingdom's ass. And, we have a situation here where Neville Chamberlain, the prime minister, is seen as weak by Parliament. So he resigns under a lot of pressure. And King George VI, I believe that's the king during this time, he appoints Winston Churchill, played by Gary Oldman, as the new prime minister. And essentially the story is about how he assembles his war cabinet and how he's essentially being dealt this huge task of trying to win a losing war. And pretty much the story takes off from there. And what I like about this, too, is that the story kind of intertwines with Dunkirk. So I think Denon pointed this out on Facebook, that you could literally do like a triple feature of King's Speech, Dunkirk, and this movie. And it's about almost pretty much the same thing. So that's right. A pretty cool thing I want to try, in the future. But as far as this movie goes, this is another one of those movies where, again, it's more of an actor showcase. This is the Gary Oldman show. Gary Oldman, freaking awesome in this movie. Although I will point out that I did kind of chuckle a little bit because I guess when he's trying to do the Winston Churchill accent and voice, he comes off more like Droopy Dog than Winston Churchill. I keep hearing Droopy Dog instead of an actual person. He was doing a parody of Churchill. But I mean, other than that, it's just your basic, historical drama. Nothing really special to write home about. It's kind of a by the numbers movie. Some of the camera work is really good though, especially during the scenes where Churchill's driving through the streets of London. They kind of juxtaposition that in the beginning, and that comes back at the end as well. But I mean, honestly, I really don't have anything else to say because It's essentially a platform for Gary Oldman to shine, show his talents off, and he does an excellent job here. But it's just one of those movies that it's completely forgettable other than his performance, and that's why I feel it shouldn't be up here with Best Picture.
Yeah, this movie kind of defines the term Oscar bait to me.
Yeah.
Now I don't want like kind of like you said, it's I don't want to disparage it because it's not like a terrible film. It's a perfectly fine film. It's it's more much like Phantom Thread. It is a showcase for acting, and in this case, really just specifically Gary Oldman. Everyone else did fine too, like Ben Mendelsohn or General Krennic.
The alpha Ben Mendelsohn. Just get it right.
Yeah,
I promoted him.
Yeah, so he's really good in this film. But I mean, it's mostly the Gary Oldman show. This is like Gary Oldman doesn't have an Oscar yet. Let's change that. That's like 20 years ago. This is the kind of movie that would have been nominated for Best Picture, right? This is exactly the kind of movie that Oscars loved back like 20 years ago. But in those 20 years, like things have changed a little bit more. So like, they add more like independent films, and they have, in the last couple of years they did like the whole cultural diversity initiative and tried to get more people to. So things like Get Out got in there somehow, and so it seems kind of like this weird out in the like outlier now, when like 20 years ago it would have fit right in with the Best Picture. But it's fine. It's a very enjoyable movie. Like if it was on TV, I'd certainly like stop and watch it, right? Like Gary Oldman's really good in it. It's just kind of, there are moments where it's just kind of like I feel like I'm watching like an Oscar bait movie from the 1990s, like where it's like, yeah, they're clearly trying to get me to to feel like, inspired and stuff. Like the one moment, I will say the one moment I actually really hated was like the cheesiest, like Hollywood, even though I think this is a British film, the most cheesy, like Hollywood thing I've seen in a movie in quite some time. It's whenever like Winston Churchill decides to go on the subway and like start like asking all the people, like, what do you think about the war? And should we go to war? And it's like, come on, he didn't fucking do that. Like, there's no way that's historically accurate. And even, like, I didn't bother looking it up. I just know that it's not historically accurate. And it's just so cheesy. It's just so fucking cheesy. Why would you put that in there,
I think they wanted to do that whole underdog thing. That was the theme of the film, because he wasn't liked by Parliament at all. And they kind of wanted him to fail. But that's the thing, like I'm agree 100% everything both of you guys said. It's almost like they needed like a biopic, right? And it was like, well, who haven't we done yet? Oh, well, look, Winston Churchill. We haven't covered that yet. Let's do that. And even the film itself doesn't bring anything how many times do politicians go through this? They go through this all the time. There wasn't anything there where I could grab onto and could say, this is Winston Churchill's personal stamp. It was like, we probably see that with lesser known politicians all the time, and so that was that. And then again, I think Gary Oldman kind of hammed it up a little bit in some scenes,
a little bit, yeah.
And it was like it kind of took me out. But that's Gary Oldman though. When he gets some meat to chew on, he kind of really chews it up. History of his film will tell you that. But this film kind of left me dry too, and it was like, okay, well, we just saw it, that's pretty much it. The good thing I will say about this is that they had a pretty good editor, and it wasn't like 2.5 hours or anything like that.
Yeah,
which is
that was nice.
It flowed nice. You're right.
Yeah, it kind of flows nice. But yeah, the subway scene made me laugh, especially because they kind of tell you that Winston Churchill, he's kind of aloof when it comes to the middle class, because he's kind of a bourgeois, he's always been kind of rich. So that's probably why they wrote that scene in there, so you could kind of relate to him as the underdog, especially for the last scene when in that big politician chamber or whatever, the parliament thing.
I mean, the movie literally ends with them clapping at him. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I don't even think this should be nominated at all. I mean, I think even with Gary Oldman, as good of a job as he did, I could tell you about 3 or 4 other films that I saw where guys should have got the best actor nod. But it was the whole thing. Whenever there's makeup involved and weight gain involved, these guys always get the love.
Yeah, and I also think that this is like oh shit, we haven't given you an Oscar yet, and you've done all. This is like I think this is more of a career acknowledgement nomination, right? Like this is like, we know that you haven't gotten an Oscar yet. Here you go.
And there was a lot of them like that. Like later on, I'll talk about the Disaster Artist, which also I think it's a little overrated. And it's a good film, but I think we didn't really learn anything from that film either. But we'll get to it later.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Again, pretty much everything you guys said. It's a great showcase for Gary Oldman, but in the end, it's by the time I got home last night I saw a freaking 10 o'clock p.m. showing of this movie, and then by the time I got home, which was about a half hour later, I completely forgot about it. I like, okay, I saw it, and now I'm gonna move on with my life. Like I'm still not thinking. I'm only thinking about it now because I'm talking about it. But if it weren't for that, I probably wouldn't even be thinking about this movie. So it's one of those types of deals. But that's Darkest Hour.
But it wasn't as tedious as like say Lincoln or something. That was a tedious movie to get through for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Just because all the jargon. Whenever there's politics involved, I worry about the jargon, and this one didn't have it. I actually kept up with it. I knew what was going on, and so that was good.
Yeah, and like you said, like the editing was good too. Like it had a nice flow to it. Like I wasn't bored or anything. It's just it's just stuff happening. It's not really like too engaging. But moving on though. I'm gonna give Draven the floor here because I know he has a lot of love for this movie, and I specifically waited for him to be on to talk about this movie. I even said this in the last episode. We're gonna wait for Draven so we can talk about Shape of Water. So I'm gonna give you the floor, Draven. Tell us a little bit about this movie.
Well, this movie is officially my favorite film of the year. And I think when we go see movies, and that goes for everybody, if you're in the right frame of mind, if you're in the right emotional state, that helps a lot because you're going to connect more to a film, right? So I went into this film and I just loved every minute of it. I think sometimes we need films that kind of give us that happy ending, and for better or worse, that's how I took it, as it was a happy ending. And it's pretty much about a lady, her name is Elisa Hawkins. That her real name is Elisa Esposito. But her name is Sally Hawkins, and she works in this government. This takes place in the 50s, during the Cold War, or is it the 60s? One of those.
I think it's 62. 62.
Okay, it takes place in 62, and she works in this government facility where she does custodial work with another lady, and they bring in this, I guess you could say, this creature. Michael Shannon is kind of the lead guy that kind of brings them in, and the entire film kind of introduces you to Sally, and it kind of tells you how lonely she is because she's mute, she can't talk, and her background is kind of kept hidden throughout the entire film. You really don't know her history. They give you little clues here and there, but you get the sense that she's a very lonely woman, but she also has a sense of innocence in her. And I thought Guillermo del Toro did a great job in kind of capturing that. So the creature comes in, and we get introduced to Michael Shannon's character, who's called Colonel Richard Strickland, and even him, he doesn't really become the villain into the almost the third act, because he has an encounter with the creature where the creature kind of takes off a couple fingers from him, and you're kind of wondering, well, what the hell's going on here? And as the film develops, you see Sally and the creature kind of connect, and they start bonding. They have this whole thing with the eggs. And within that, you have another actor another character played by Richard Jenkins, the great Richard Jenkins, called Giles. Now that to me, I thought he did a phenomenal job. I thought he was amazing, probably the best actor in that film, because he had very little to work with, but you end up kind of knowing so much about him. One of which is that he's just as lonely as Sally, and it's almost like this. Them being lonely kind of unites them, and it gives them a common thread for both of them to kind of live their lives together as friends. And then you also have the doctor, which I thought he did an incredible job. The Boardwalk Empire guy who also showed up in Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, Stuhlbarg.
Yeah, what was his name? What's his real name? Oh, Michael Stuhlbarg.
Mike Stuhlbarg.
Yeah. Right here, he plays the double agent. He plays Dr. Hoffenstever, and then he's also like Dmitry Antonovich. He's a Russian. And so the thing is that one of the side stories going on here is that the Russians, they want to get this creature to kind of study him, and Michael Stuhlbarg is kind of being a double agent. But as the film progresses, he kind of connects with the creature as well, and he kind of wants to save him. So the middle portion of the film it has it has some good tension because they try to sneak the creature out as the creature's connecting more and more with Sally, and the doctor's also connecting with him at a human level. So there's this great scene. I obviously it's only gonna work the first time you see it because I was at the edge of my seat when they're trying to sneak the creature out because I didn't really know what was gonna happen.
That third act is really well shot, really well framed as far as the story goes too.
And the creature's played by the great Doug Jones,
bro.
Yeah, who has a history with Guillermo del
Toro veteran. Yeah, exactly.
So they eventually connect, Sally and the creature in more ways than one. I mean, they have this very sappy scene where they're dancing in black and white, where she's imagining that. But then they have another scene that's supposed to be in reality, which that's the part that's Guillermo del Toro's like fantasy kind of filmmaking, where it kind of threw me off a little bit, where they have sex in the restroom and they clog the toilet and then they have all that big leak or whatever. I was like, okay, but I felt like Guillermo had done enough for me to go along with it. Like, it didn't take me out of the movie completely. And so the third act is very good as well because now it becomes Michael Shannon, who again we also get some character development with him. He's a very prideful guy, and he's also a product of his time. He's a racist. But again, he's the kind of character that that he doesn't see himself as a racist because he is a product of his time and the way he was brought up to think certain things about African Americans or whatnot and about women and all that stuff. So
women.
So he kind of plays that role pretty well because even with his limited time, you kind of understand where he's coming from, Because I've always said, like, I saw this movie. I've only seen it twice, but the second time I'm thinking, there's the whole movie about Colonel Strickland and the creature that we've never saw, because they had already done battle before he got him and brought him to the facility. So there's already. That's why Michael Shannon has so much resentment over that creature because he's already affected him not only physically but emotionally, and so at the end of the day we have a great villain who's working for the greater good, which I always make for great villains, and in his mind he's doing the right thing for his country. And then at the end of the movie, I mean, I thought the last couple of minutes are a little too fast for me. I thought it kind of tied everything up way too fast, but at the same time, you do get good closure, and it's just there's nothing to this movie. It's just an old school fashion love story, and sometimes that's all we need. There's no swerves. It's just by the numbers great love story. And like again, especially with the times we live in now, I think these kind of movies are necessary. We don't have to get wacky and outrageous all the time. Just give us a by the numbers love story, a by the numbers drama, and we're gonna go home happy. So this is my favorite movie.
This does get pretty wacky though. I mean, to be fair.
Well, yeah, the bathtub scene's a little weird, and the black and white scene where they're dancing is kind of but I feel that's just Guillermo del Toro can't help himself. He's always gonna go that route whatever fucking movie he does.
Oh no, so, I'm fine with it. I'm just saying it does. To be fair, it does get kind of wacky.
Yeah, but yeah. So I love this movie. I loved it a lot, and I pimped it out, and it's just with everything that we saw this year, it was such a change, and it was so basic too. That's the thing and I think other people went into it thinking the same thing, like, oh my god, everybody's pimping this film, and then they go see the film, and it's a basic film, but it just works so well because of the world that Guillermo del Toro builds for an hour and a half, and it's a great movie.
I think that there's a couple things I want to point out. The first is that what I really liked, and this is one of my top 10 of the year also, but what I feel that I think is what made it unique to me is that I feel that this is probably the best, I guess, fairy tale brought to life in film like I've seen in a long time. I'm not going to say it's the best, but like this is the epitome of a fairy tale. And that's what I kind of drew me the most to this movie is the fact that it really plays out like a fairy tale. And like you said, it is very basic. It's a by the numbers plot, but it's just it has so many of those magical elements that, fairy tale storytelling that, it was a wonderful sit through for me because I'm not used to seeing that anymore. And Del Toro's really good at doing stories like Pan's Labyrinth. To me, felt like a fairy tale as well.
Well, I can only see that one once, though. I can't see that one's way too dark, though, for me.
Yeah,
it's just way too fucked up.
Right. At least with this one, you have like you said, it's a by the numbers story. They live happily ever after. And people are commenting like, I mean, I thought it was okay, nothing special. Like, yeah, like okay, if you look at it on a technical level, really, yeah, okay, nothing special. But it's the fact that to me, you don't see this anymore in movies. You don't see the effort put into like making a magical story like this. And Del Toro, it's obvious that this story was very close to Del Toro's heart with the passion that you can see just exuding from all of the work and from all of the shots to even the actors. I mean, and that's the second point I want to make. Sally Hawkins is amazing here. I am
Yeah.
glad she's nominated because this is one of those roles where she literally says nothing for practically 99% of the movie. And all her acting is through her facial expressions and through her body language. And the fact that you're still able to follow her emotions and her story just through looking at her without a word come out of her mouth, that's true talent. So I got to give Sally Hawkins major props here. She did wonderful work.
Well, it was both of them. He's known as the amphibian man, or he also it was both of them. They had to be very expressive with their facials, and there was no dialogue, but yet you knew what was going on. You knew what they were feeling, and to me it was like during the third act, I was just saying, just fucking give it to me, man. Don't take it away, because Guillermo del Toro will take it away. He's done it in other films, and I was just give me the ending that I want. That's all I want, and of course at the end, it's all from a guy else's perspective. For all we know, she got shot up, but it doesn't matter. Like when I was in that fantasy world, I'll take that ending. That was perfect. Like whether or not she died or didn't die, or it's all Richard Jenkins imagining it, whatever, because the story's from his point of view, that's fine. But the fact that it was presented in a fantasy element like that, and they gave me that ending, I was completely happy with that. I just didn't want that ending to be taken away from me, to have some sort of like social message. I would have been very pissed. This film wasn't about that. This film was about giving us something, giving us hope, giving us something to strive for, and it just connected with me. Like I said, sometimes you're in that emotional state where films connect with you like that, and at that moment I was like, man, this is I just saw the best film of the year. That's what I told myself when I was walking out of there.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Well, I love this movie. It's gonna come up later when we do our best of the year. But you were talking about how good Sally Hawkins is. Like I'm like really hope that she. I don't think she will, but if it was up to me, she would get the Oscar for Best Actress this year. I have a feeling it's gonna go to Frances McDormand, but I like that. To me, is who should receive it, because to me that is like the best piece of. Because again, she didn't talk the whole movie. She was completely mute, except for I think she made like a sound or something she was trying to speak. But for the most part, she just was mute the entire time, and it was all in her expression and all in her body language. And again, a lot of props to Doug Jones, who had to do all that acting under that heavy makeup and heavy costuming, creature effects, and all that shit. And for like a fucking creature from the Black Lagoon, you knew exactly what he was feeling. You know exactly what, all through body language. That's a guy who doesn't get any like recognition ever, other than like genre fans. But like he's like a guy who like no one ever really seems to appreciate like the work he does, other than people like within like the science fiction, fantasy, horror kind of the movies that he ends up doing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and so like I really I wish that there was like some sort of like award you could give him, because I don't know, for like supporting actor or something, because that's such a fucking amazing performance. And speaking of, like, how did that movie not get any like makeup nominations either? Because that creature effect was fantastic, and it was practical.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there were a couple like CG stuff, like maybe like the gills moving and shit like that. But for the most part, that was a practical effect, and it's just a dude in a fucking rubber suit, like the way they used to do things, right? Yeah, it's weird to me that didn't get any sort of nomination for that.
I was gonna say our boy Andy Serkis is the one that gets all the props for, like,
I know, right? He's cornered that market.
But I always felt, to keep up with this Andy Serkis thing, like, because the big thing is, should he get nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor when he does these kind of things? And I think the answer to that is yes, because it's a lot of fucking work, man. And when Andy Serkis is running around playing Caesar, that you could tell as an actor, you could tell that whatever, they have the motion capture or whatever, but he's still there performing, and some of these performances are quite good, so they should be recognized, but they just won't do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, like I mean, like you guys said, this is a great experience. I don't know so much, like I said, because I've talked to people that said is by the number so much it is on the surface it is, but it's just the overall experience. You're watching a fairy tale come to life, and
Right.
and I think this was probably the movie that Guillermo del Toro has been wanting to make his entire life. And now, he's built enough equity over the years, over his career, that he was finally able to do this. And you can tell that this was a labor of love, and it's definitely one of my top 10 of 2017. But we're gonna get to that later. But
I mean,
definitely check this out.
you could tell, like whenever he won, I think it was the Golden Globe for this movie for Best Director. He based and like the apparently the money is on him to win for the Oscar, which I think would be amazing. But you could tell like he was really touched by it because his whole acceptance speech was about, I love monsters and I love like fantasy, and this has always been my kind of world, and I'm glad that people are finally recognizing it as art, and this movie did mean a lot to him, so I'm
Yeah,
glad that it's getting recognized as such.
damn right.
And his previous ones fucking sucked, so that's when he came back. That Crimson whatever, that it was just horrible.
Oh, Crimson
I
Peak was
thought,
not great.
yeah.
But anyway, so that's the Shape of Water. Moving on to we got two more films left before we can go into our Oscar predictions. And the first one up, I'm gonna give it to Adolfo to kind of intro us on this. It's written and directed by our Greta Gerwig. Is gonna be Ladybird. So take us away with that one, Adolfo.
Okay, so Ladybird is kind of like the best way I can describe it is like an artsier version of The Edge of 17. It's a coming of age slice of life story about a young teenage girl lives in the suburbs, I think of Sacramento, in this movie, where she's
Yes.
she's from the quote unquote wrong side of the tracks, doesn't have a lot of money, always fighting with her mom, wanting to move away to college, but she doesn't really have the grades to do it. Has her first boyfriend experience, and then it's just really just her kind of life in this small town in high school, and all the things that you deal with as a high school girl, losing your virginity, and falling in love and falling out of love, and applying for college, and dealing with heartbreak and all. That's basically it as far as like the quote unquote story goes. It is a lot much more about the slice of life kind of aspect of it, and her relationships with these people, specifically her mother, played by Laurie Metcalf, who a lot of people probably know from Roseanne, who she played Roseanne's sister on that show, who I think is like the all star in this movie. She plays like, I think she's like the best part of the film is that performance. I don't know. This movie it's kind of funny because this is not a movie that is necessarily marketed towards a 37-year-old dude, but I really ended up walking out of this really enjoying this movie. I think because even though it is a girl and a teenage girl in the suburbs, I did still kind of relate to a lot of the stuff that you go like just the regular teenage bullshit that you go through, like fighting with your parents and wanting to get out of your small
That's your
shitty
future,
little
bro. Just
town.
just keep that in
No,
mind.
I know. Trying to get out of because I grew up in a small shitty town, and I wanted to get out of there, and I would fight with my parents occasionally, and not to the extent of this, you know what I mean? But it was I totally there's a lot of points that I can relate to here, and it's I think it really does capture kind of like teenage life pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh
David.
well. Okay. I did not relate to this movie at all as a 37-year-old male who grew up in poverty. So this is my own thing. This is my hang up. Okay, when I watch films like this, because again we all have different worldviews. It's like all I see is like a what do you call it? Just like goddamn, I've been drinking Rolling Rock here. Like a privileged white kid, and that's what I see because I didn't grow up like this at all. We're worried of where the hell we're gonna eat our next meal. So when I see films like this, they don't connect with me at all, and so yeah, there's some general coming of age themes that every teenager goes through, and that I
Right.
understood, but everything else seemed like it was so much to do about nothing from my perspective. Um, and also, it reminded me of those films that were released in the mid '90s by Miramax. All those coming of age fucking, this is the kind of stuff that I could see myself loving this film like in 96 when I was like 16 years old and shit like that. And I could see that because we had a shitload of films during that era come out tackling this kind of subject that I thought did it a little better. And I just don't know why this film caught some steam, because it's just one of them. It's just another one of those kind of films. But for some reason, this film got a lot of good press, and it kind of rode that wave, and so I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me. I just didn't connect with it at all. And then again, that's my hang up. That again, we have to also think about the people that this is marketed towards. And with me, it didn't do anything for me. I was kind of bored sometimes. I was kind of waiting for the characters to catch up to me, because I knew where this film was kind of going, just because again, there's been 1,000 of these kind of films before, and that's pretty much it. I just didn't really connect with this film.
Well, I'm personally a fan of it, and I'll tell you why. It's not so much because of, I guess, the overall themes of the movie or because of who the characters were. But first of all, I just want to say also, Saoirse Ronan, Laurie Metcalf, freaking great performances. Very, very. Those two kept the film afloat. But the reason why I like it so much is because I feel that the writing is absolutely amazing here. I thought Greta Gerwig did an amazing job writing this movie, writing the dialogue.
She is a great writer. She is definitely. I am a fan of her previous films. She is a great writer, definitely. I'll never take that away from her. Yeah.
And as much as I can't relate, and I'm in your camp, David, as much as I can't relate to a lot of the stuff that's going on in this movie, every conversation, every argument felt so real. Mm-hmm. Everything just comes off so authentic. And you got to praise not only the acting, but the writing in that sense. And you grow attached to these characters over time, and to the point where, as you guys know, this film ends kind of abruptly. And to me, the testament of a strong character is when a movie ends and you're like, wait, what happens next?
Right.
I want to know what happens next. And that movie kind of left me hanging there at the end, because you have that moment at the end, and I want people to see this, so I'm not going to reveal what it is, but you have that moment at the end where she's standing there, and then the film kind of just ends. And it's like, hold on. Like, wait a minute. What happened? Like, did she get the message? What's going to happen with these two? And the fact that I want the story to continue just is a testament to me as to how strong these characters were written, and just how well the film overall was written as well. I don't have too much else to say about the movie, but I'm a big fan of the writing and a big fan of the two leads in this movie. They were absolutely phenomenal. The writing was phenomenal. And I think just on those merits alone, if you like a film with good writing and with good acting, definitely put this on your watch list, because it's definitely up your alley.
And I would say, as far as the writing goes, Greta Gerwig got a directing nomination for this movie, and I think the writing is stronger than the directing here. And I'm not going to play politics here. I think we talked about this a little bit on our last show.
Our last episode.
I think there might be some quote unquote tokenism with that nomination. I think that it is a very strong first effort, and then people wanted to reward her for that. I don't think she's going to get the Oscar. I don't think she will get the actual statue. But I will say that the screenplay is stronger than the directing, and I think she did she get nominated for the screenplay? I'm not even sure.
Let's take a look.
I'm gonna look it up, but I think the screenplay.
Yeah, she did.
She did. Okay.
She did. Yeah, best original screenplay.
All right, then she that would, so she's double nominated. That's a pretty good achievement. That's a really good achievement for your first feature, right? But and then not her first directing feature, I should say. So I would have kept the screenplay nomination. I don't know if I would have kept her in as a directing nom, just because it is a pretty, I don't want to say basic, but there's nothing in the film that I don't think another first time filmmaker could have done either. From a directing standpoint, but I still like the film. But I just think that screenplay is a much more deserving nomination than directing.
And it's a very personal film too. I think she said it was like semi autobiographical in a lot of ways. And again, when you're doing personal films, it all comes down to the characters, and if the public doesn't connect with them because the film is so personal and it's gonna have some niche kind of themes going on, then you're gonna be fucked. But if the public does connect with it, then it's gonna be a great time. So that's the drawback of doing these kind of films. And like I say, you could tell that it was very personal to her. I just thought it's a little, like I said, it looked like it was made in 1996 and they transferred it over to 2017. I was like, okay, well, but I definitely give it props for everything you guys said. It was well written. The dialogue is very good, and I was never bored by it. And I did like the ending. I thought that was a nice little clever, like you said. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I thought it was a nice little clever trick because there's you could tell that there's more story here. That's all I'll say about that.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So I will give it props. It wasn't a bad movie or anything. It's just I just don't know what it's doing being nominated for all these awards. When there's so many other great films that didn't get shit.
Right. Absolutely.
That's every year. So
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue into our next film because we go from one coming of age story to another. And that's our final film here before we get into our Oscar predictions is Call Me By Your Name, directed by Luca Guadagnino. I don't know if I'm saying the name correctly, but so starring Armie Hammer, Timothy Chalamet, Michael Stuhlbarg again coming. By the way, Timothy Chalamet was in Ladybird also, so he's also
they're getting paydays, brother.
They're getting paydays, exactly. So just a quick summary though. The film takes place in the summer of 1983 in Italian countryside. So Elio is a 17-year-old Jewish American Italian boy living with his parents, in Italy. And this guy Oliver shows up to stay with his family for the summer. I believe he's a grad student and he's helping his Elio's father, who's a professor. He's
a 35-year-old grad student. So
apparently, right?
So was I at one time. So hey, I relate to that.
Hey, so was my wife. So.
So essentially, the film is about how Elio and Oliver, kind of grow distant from each other because they don't know what the other one wants, but then they end up forming a relationship together. And I was gonna make a joke earlier. This is gonna be one of the films on Dr. D's banned movies list, but for obvious reasons. But I mean, the film itself is just a story of their summer romance. Right. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it as far as a summary. But and again, kind of going back full circle to how we started this show with a movie like Phantom Thread, where it's essentially just a story about a relationship. This is a story about a summer romance. There's nothing like action-y. There's no big plot twists or anything to look forward to on that regard. It's essentially just a story about how Elio and Oliver come together and have this summer romance and
peaches
oh my goodness
and peaches. So I mean what else can I say about that? I mean, I had flashbacks of American Pie again, but
American Pie.
So with this film, I was kind of like dreading it in the beginning. Like the first 40 minutes, I was like, "Oh my god!" But I gotta say, the last half, I really got involved with these characters. Like, I really love the speech at the end where the Stuhlbarg speech was phenomenal because I think that speech could be used like in real life. That's real life right there. And I really like how they the whole relationship with the parents, whether or not they know about the affair going on or the relationship going on, and then at the end it's revealed that they do know. I thought that's when it got interesting to me. Like with the last 25 minutes or so were really interesting, and that's when it was like there was more going on. As a result of the relationship, it affected everyone, and that's what I liked about it. Because you see a lot of films like this, where like Elio and Oliver will have a relationship, and it just affects Elio and Oliver, and all of a sudden, all these other characters they're just characters. When this film, especially in the third act, everybody gets affected by this relationship, including Elio's girlfriend and the parents, and also. It goes both ways. How they feel about Elio and how Elio feels about them, because there's a little bit of embarrassment going on towards the end with his parents, and then when Michael Stolberg kind of tells them that it's okay, and just to hold on to that pain because that kind of love doesn't come around too often. But at the same time, see, this is a great. I love this ending because at the same time, you could tell that Stolberg's character, he isn't exactly thrilled about what happened, but he accepts it, and he even kind of tells them, at one time I was tempted. He doesn't necessarily say the same way as Elio was, like with another
Right.
man, but he generalizes the relationship and how Stolberg also was tempted to go, whether it was with another woman or another man. They don't really say it, but bottom line is that he was trying to kind of empathize with his son, and I thought that's when it was very clever. I thought that scene alone made the entire film worth it. Like I said, it's a little bit of a drag in the beginning, but it
Right.
really really picks up towards the end. So
Yeah,
that was my thoughts on the film.
I completely agree. I had the same issues where I'd say, I mean, how long is the movie? About 2 hours. I'd say like for the first 45 minutes, I was like, okay, geez, is this going anywhere? Because I was getting really, I don't even know if it was bored, but I was like,
It was
after
a
a
slow
while,
burn.
yeah, after a while, you're like, all right, another beautiful Italian vista. Like I've seen it like 100 times before in this movie. Like just can we move the plot along a little bit? But then you're right. I'd say about halfway through, it starts from like that's when the actual relationship starts.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
whenever I get more invested in the movie. And then you're right, and it's only gonna end in heartbreak. It's like there's no other way the movie's gonna end. It's not gonna end with them happily ever after. So as you get more invested, you kind of start to start to feel for like this kid is what this kid is probably going to end up going through. And you're right. I think that Stuhlbarg speech at the end is probably like one of my favorite scenes of the year. And I think it's kind of criminal he didn't get nominated for an Oscar just for that scene alone, almost because
I was trying to remember it because I feel like I'm gonna have to give it to some kid one day. That's a great scene,
I
man.
know it's a fantastic scene.
But
He was
anyways,
so
go
good.
ahead.
It was like that's like one of the best movie dads ever right there during
Yeah.
that speech. And then like a lot of people talked about like that final shot, which
Yeah.
I actually really, it's kind of weird because it's kind of like it first starts you're like okay, and then you start noticing all right we're still in the same shot, and then it kind of goes on a little too long. But then it goes past that too long point where then you start to accept and appreciate it, if that makes any sense.
But I feel this is my interpretation of that final shot. I feel that when you're that young, when you're 17 years old like that, everything seems like it's gonna be forever. There's a sense of permanence in your heartbreak, and so I felt that him like I wouldn't want to see that. I'm thankful I didn't see it in the theater because that would have been uncomfortable as fuck with other people. But I saw it at my
Oh,
house.
well,
But
I had that. I saw this movie about like 5 hours ago. So
yeah,
in an audience full of people.
you know what's the worst, bro, is for some reason it's better to see it in a room like with like 60, 70 people, but it's worse when it's like you and like three other people. That's when it gets weird.
That's awkward. That's an
I was like,
awkward
oh
stage at that point.
fuck, man. But anyways, yeah, that shot lingers and lingers and lingers. But I think that was the point. I think it
No,
was because
I agree. I agree. There was a point where like halfway through the shot, you start to wonder how long is this shot going to go? But then it keeps going, and then you appreciate it for what it is. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like so, and I completely agree because like I've been at that level of heartbreak before, where like you really are just like, fuck, it's over. What am I gonna do? And you're just kind of staring. You're kind of just dead, a little bit dead
Right.
inside, and you're just kind of
Yeah.
staring, And I get that. I completely understood that. I was with him there. I've never had a relationship with like a 37-year-old man, but I certainly have felt that kind of level of loss before.
And another little subtlety that I appreciated about this film was how Arnie Hammer's character was a little more accepting of the relationship because he has more experience. He's an older man, and so we didn't see him. I mean, we didn't see his perspective, of course, but from the perspective of the film, we didn't see him go to pieces because it's almost like he had been through this before, or he understood certain things about life that the 17-year-old didn't understand. And so, to Arnie Hammer, it was like it was great, but we all got to move on, and that's something you learn as you develop in your life, and so that was another little subtlety that I appreciated because it wasn't like both of them. Oh, I missed you. It was Arnie Hammer moving on, and he's gonna get married, and Elio was like he was heartbroken, and so that was another little cool thing about the film.
And I do want to point out one thing also to kind of backtrack also to what we were saying about Ladybird, how there's more story there after the film ends. I think there's more story here too. Like you're watching that final shot, and like you guys said, it does get increasingly uncomfortable until you realize, you know what? I get it. I get why I'm seeing this, but at the same time, you're like, there's more story here. I feel like there's more story here, and I want to find out what happens to this guy, what happens to a 37-year-old Army Hammer, and, and it's like, there has to be something else. So I mean, I can accept that if this is where the story ends, that's all well and good. But I got so attached to these characters, just like in Ladybird, I got so attached to these characters that I want to know more of their story. Like there has to be some sort of continuance to this, and I hear that there might be a sequel. They it's in the works, but they haven't confirmed it yet.
So let's talk about Arnie Hammer, because he joins a long list of fucking washouts that got a rocket up their ass by Hollywood, and they flamed out. So he joins guys like Skeet Ulrich. He joins guys. he joins guys like, what was the other guy? Chris Stein, that guy, the rollerball guy with Paul Heyman and Shane O'Mac.
And the guy, isn't that the guy from American Pie?
American Pie, yeah. Though, and then because Arnie Hammer had that flop with Johnny Depp, and he's never been trusted to carry a film again. I mean, he'll do these kind of films.
Oh, the Lone Ranger, right?
Yeah, Lone Ranger. And you could always tell when Hollywood gives up on you, because you start showing up in films like this, and it's like you have to work your way back up. But there's always a point where they'll put also what was the guy that had like 3 flops in a row? The guy from Battleship, and he did John of Mars.
Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch, that's another guy we could throw on the list.
So yeah, but he sucks. Like I've never seen him do good in any. Like he's a bad actor. Armie Hammer's a good actor. Like Taylor Kitsch isn't.
Yeah, he is. No, Taylor Kitsch is not just a bad actor; he's a horrible actor.
Yeah.
But he's actually getting good reviews for Waco, which is actually on my to watch list.
Oh, okay.
So he might have a little bit of a career on TV.
Maybe he redeemed himself then.
Yeah, but yeah. So, anyways, I enjoyed this film. I really did.
What about Jai Courtney, bro?
Oh yeah, Jai Courtney's another one.
Throw him in there too.
He's a franchise killer. Remember that?
Yeah.
He killed the Terminator, and he killed fucking Die Hard.
To be fair, though, he hasn't killed Suicide Squad. That movie made a lot of money, even though it wasn't very good.
But to be fair, he was like the fourth.
He wasn't the lead. It was not the lead. He was like the exactly. He was like that. That was the Will Smith and Margot Robbie show.
Yeah, that's right. But
that entire crew came back for Bright, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later on. That entire production team came back for Bright. And a lot of the same actors came back for that film, and which I will get to later on.
Alrighty, guys. So that's going to wrap up our Best Picture review. So we're pretty much all caught up with all the Best Picture nominees. And of course, you can catch up with all the previous ones, such as Get Out, 3 Billboards, through our 4 respective archives on iTunes. So we're going to get to Oscar predictions. So I have the nominees and categories up here on my screen. We're going to start at the bottom. We're going to start, as usual, with the Let's Give a Blockbuster a Bone category, a.k.a. Best Visual Effects. We have Blade Runner 2049, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Kong Skull Island, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and War for the Planet of the Apes.
I actually don't know
what do you guys
this goes to be honest. Like, if I had to give it to one of those, I would probably go Guardians or Blade Runner. But I don't actually know. I don't know who the front runner here is.
Okay, can you repeat them again? Because I was pulling them up right here and I didn't really hear you.
Blade Runner, Guardians of the Galaxy, Kong Skull Island, Last Jedi, and Planet of the Apes.
Okay, well, this is just, again, like, we don't know who the front runner is, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it to Kong Skull Island, and I'm going to tell you why. I've never gotten a perspective of the gorilla in any of the fucking Kong movies, including the original. And this film, for whatever reason, like, I was able to get, like, depth of how big this fucking gorilla really is. They did a really good job with that, especially because they had a lot of aerial shots, so they were able to do that. And of course, they had one of my favorite scenes of the year where he's just standing there as the helicopters are approaching. That was a great fucking shot, man.
That's a really good shot.
I'm gonna go with Kong Skull Island. And you know what? It got a lot of shit for some reason, but I felt for as a popcorn movie, it was a fun
popcorn movie. Was good, yeah. I had no issue with it.
If you watch it like for the story's garbage. But if you watch it for giant monsters beating the shit out of each other, it's a fun movie.
Yeah. And it also and I really appreciate that it had a lot of the who's who of character actors too. They got a lot of good people to work on this film. And so a lot of people that people will recognize from other movies as character actors or whatnot, they were all in one film at one time, and they all got to ham it up, which is always a plus.
Yeah, especially our boy Samuel L. Jackson, the king of the hammy actors. But,
Yeah, hell yeah, man. He didn't give himself a lisp on this one though, as he did with
unfortunately, with Kingsman, right?
Kingsman. Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with the safe pick here. In my opinion, the safe pick here is Blade Runner 2049. So that's gonna be my pick.
That was a beautiful film when I was awake and watching it. That's all I'll say about
it. What about Adolfo? What's your pick?
Yeah, like I said, I maybe Guardians or maybe I don't know. I honestly can't pick a leader here. I mean, they're all very CGI heavy. I'm just gonna pick Guardians just to pick one. I honestly don't have none of these choices jump out at me right now.
So moving on to best film editing, you have Baby Driver, Dunkirk, I, Tonya, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards. Dunkirk. It has to be Dunkirk.
I gotta go with Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
The editing in that film is phenomenal. Especially, I don't know if you guys had the same reaction that I had when I was watching that film, but there's a point in the film where you realize what's going on, and it's like, holy shit, that's fucking amazing. Because you don't really know what's going on in the first part of the film. You don't even know that it's three stories kind of coming together as one at the same time, really. And then in the second half, when you have scenes overlapping each other, that's fucking great, bro. I gotta go with there's great editing on that film. I gotta go with that one, Dunkirk, definitely.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's what's gonna win. I think Dunkirk is probably going to take all of those kind of technical ones, like the sound editing and all that kind of stuff. I think that's going to go to all that stuff's going to go to Dunkirk.
Yeah, absolutely has to. Absolutely has to. Best costume design: Beauty and the Beast, Darkest Hour, Phantom Thread, The Shape of Water, and Victoria and Abdul. This one has to be Phantom Thread, right? I mean, because if it doesn't win, it fails as a movie. Well, it's about fashion.
This is always like the.
That is a good point. That is a good point, dude.
This category is always like the period pieces and like the fantasy movies, right? Like that's what always gets nominated in these categories. And I think Phantom Thread is going to win here. That I think is the no-brainer. Like I don't know, like Darkest Hour gets to be. It's like you made a movie based in 1940, so it was like 100 other people. Like I don't see what was so amazing about those costumes. Like with Phantom Thread, it's like okay, those are like all these dresses and all this. That one makes sense.
Yeah, and the Hollywood elite, they know how to pick out all them dresses. They're like, oh my god, that was so and so. So that was the one that's gonna win.
Yeah, it has to. I mean, it has to, man. Best makeup and hairstyling: Darkest Hour, Victoria and Abdul, and Wonder. I mean, they probably want to give Gary Oldman props for all the makeup he had to go through. So I think Darkest Hour is getting this one.
I do too, but honestly, I'm kind of annoyed that things like something like a Guardians of the Galaxy didn't get nominated. When half that cast is in fucking makeup, or in Shape of Water, that should have gotten a makeup one. Like why didn't those two movies get in there? And Wonder, I didn't see that movie, but I saw enough of that kid's face that I was like, okay. Like he just, I mean, I know that it's from what I heard, it's like a tearjerker, kind of sweet movie. It's not my kind of thing. I didn't really want to watch it, but every time I saw the commercial for it, I'm like, all right. I don't know. I guess the makeup doesn't impress me from what I've seen, but when you have movies like Guardians and Shape of Water, where those people went through hours and hours and hours of makeup before they even got onto set, that's more impressive to me than any of these movies.
Definitely.
You picking Darkest Hour too, Draven?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, they're high-fiving each other, so that's pretty much what they're gonna do,
The next couple, actually the next few are going to be toss-ups in my opinion, and I'm sure you'll understand why. So we're going to start with cinematography. You have Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Mudbound, and The Shape of Water. These next few categories is going to be between Dunkirk and Blade Runner that gets it. So this one, I don't even know, honestly.
Just give the fucking reward to Roger Deakins already. He's had 16 nominations. Just give it to him already. Fuck. That guy's waited long enough, man.
Yeah, I got to go with Blade Runner.
And the movie's fucking beautiful, too.
Pick, I think. Yeah.
That's a beautiful. I mean, I didn't really like.
The one good thing you could say about it, Draven. That is.
Here's the thing about Blade Runner. I was never a fan of the original. I think the original is really overrated. It's one of those films that just kind of caught on its own hype through nostalgia, and it just you watch it and it's it's a sci-fi movie. And really, I mean, what's his name? He has that great speech at the end about being human and stuff. That's pretty cool. But that's pretty much it, Roy Howard, he has the great lines at the
Dr.
end.
Howard, bro.
Roy Howard, yeah.
I mean, I love the original Blade Runner. I don't think this quite matched up to it. I mean, we reviewed it on the show, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't like. I know a lot of people really loved 2049, and I was like, it's pretty. It's a really pretty movie, and it deserves that cinematography award. But I don't see why people loved it as much as like the 1982 version. I will say though, I will say like a lot of people were kind of thinking that Mudbound was like a token nomination because it's the first female cinematographer that got directed. But I actually watched Mudbound.
That's a great film.
It's a really good movie. I didn't expect it to be, and the cinematography is actually really really good in that film. So it actually does deserve to be in here, and she did a really great job with that. This is actually
Rachel Morrison. Didn't she do a Black Panther also recently?
She did do Black Panther. Yeah, she was cinematographer in Black Panther. So she's her career got a fucking kick in the ass. Darkest Hour is the only one I'm not really digging here, to be honest. But everything else,
for cinematography,
for everything
That's
else, I
kind of
think
weird
belongs
choice.
in here. But I think just give the fucking statue to Roger Deakins already. Jesus
Oh
Christ.
yeah. I'm gonna go with Blade Runner as well. More so for Roger Deakins in it, because I would give it to Dunkirk too. Obviously, that's another gorgeous movie.
To this day, I think he got robbed for Skyfall, and like he should have won.
Oh
Skyfall,
my
man.
god, I remember that. That was awful. That was awful, bro. Best production design, another toss up here: Beauty and the Beast, Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, and Shape of Water. I'm gonna go with Blade Runner on this one as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Adolfo.
I'm not gonna argue that.
Best sound mixing: Baby Driver, Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, The Shape of
Dunkirk,
Water,
dude,
and
that's gonna be
and The Last
Dunkirk.
Jedi. Dunkirk, yeah,
It's Dunkirk for both of these.
Yeah, sound editing and sound mixing. Editing,
The
you have Baby. It's the same category.
It's the same.
I mean,
nominees. I mean, yeah.
I mean, the nerd in me would want to go with Baby Driver because that's a fucking great film.
Oh god, we're gonna hear about that in my top 10 later.
And it's everything that I love about movies from the genre loving side of me, not so much from the dramatic, performance side, but just the genre loving side. That film just hit all the marks with me, and the soundtrack
Same
is
here.
incredible.
I love it.
But
I bought the soundtrack as soon as I left the theater. I bought the soundtrack on iTunes. So
that's definitely a film that, and it also because of Baby Driver's condition, it also does use a lot of sound, which is great. So but it's not gonna win. I don't think.
No,
I'm
I
just
don't
happy
think so
he's
either.
nominated. That they're actually recognizing. I guess that's like half the battle. So.
Oh, okay.
Both these, mixing and editing, Dunkirk for both. Absolutely. Guys agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that movie, the sound in that movie was relentless. So yeah.
Best original song: Mighty River from Mudbound, Mystery of Love from Call Me by Your Name, Remember Me from Coco, Stand Up for Something from Marshall, and This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. I want Coco to win, bro.
This is when I'm gonna get pissed off, and this is when I'm gonna get the most pissed off during the ceremony, because Coco should win this, but they're gonna give it to that fucking Greatest Showman song. I guarantee you. Coco.
I want Coco to win too.
Because like I said on our last show, like that, the moment he sings that song to his grandma at the end of the movie, like fuck, man, that's one of the best moments of the year right there. That should win, and it's gonna go to The Greatest Showman.
Oh, and for those who don't know, Coco is out this Tuesday on Blu-ray. As of this recording, that's a day one pickup for me. I'm gonna go after work and pick that shit up. So, great fucking movie, bro.
I saw that. I took my nieces to see that one, and man, there wasn't a dry eye in the house at the end.
Oh my
Does
God.
that include you?
Yeah.
So wait,
don't tell Dr. D.
So
I had some explanation to do. Just put it that way.
So wait. We talked about this in our last show. We want to know, did you pop as much as we did when you saw El Santo?
Yeah, definitely.
El Santo, bro. I'm still popping.
I mean, they had so many Easter eggs for our culture there that it wasn't even fun. That film was. I mean, it's Pixar. They really do everything with care. It wasn't just a bunch of white guys making movies. It was like they really went in there and they really tried. They got the essence of the culture, and that was one of the things that really impressed me about that film. You know, it wasn't like white Hollywood trying to make a Dia de los Muertos fucking movie and just exploiting all the cliches. They actually went deep and got some good fucking little Easter eggs for everything there.
Yeah, I really love that movie. It's in my top 10.
Me too.
And it has a great twist and everything of it. We'll get to it because it's in my top 10 as well.
Best original score: Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, The Shape of Water, Last Jedi, and 3 Billboards. I'm gonna give it to Dunkirk.
I gotta go with Shape of Water. I've actually been.
Oh, nice.
But when you were talking about original score, right? I love that score, man. That score was like 45% of the film to me. It was phenomenal. And again, I bought it as soon as I got out of there, and I've been listening to it as I do my work here, and I have it nonstop. It's a great score.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Dunkirk. That score is also amazing. But what do you think, Adolfo?
Yeah, I think Shape of Water is going to win. I agree. It's a really, really good score. As much as I didn't really love the movie, I really do think the music in Venom Thread was actually really good as well. It was kind of jazzy almost. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But it was really good music. Dunkirk was more like it was kind of like more. It was more in the line of like Inception, where it was just like punishing you like the entire time. It was like, here's the music, boom. You know what I mean? Star Wars: Last Jedi. I don't know. Like, it's just another Star Wars score. Like,
nothing special about it, in my opinion.
I do love the Star Wars, which is weird because I was talking to Big D about this. I don't think they added this on the soundtrack because that's another thing they fucked up about this movie. But the trailer theme was great.
The trailer theme is fantastic.
And it's not on the soundtrack, which is weird.
It is sort of like some of the notes of the trailer theme are in there, but it's not that whole song. So like some of I don't know how to explain it, but like there are moments in the trailer theme that are incorporated into like other parts of the score. That specific like 2.5 minutes of the trailer music is not actually in the score. And 3 billboards. Who the fuck even remembers that? I think it's gonna be Shape of Water.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm picking Dunkirk. That's a safe pick for me. Our boy Hans Zimmer. I'm gonna pick Dunkirk for that. Now before
by the way, Inception cursed us with that fucking sound that every trailer plays now. That
I know what you're talking about. So have anybody seen any of the short films?
No.
Now we're gonna just skip
them.
No, I haven't.
Skip that shit.
Although I do want to mention one of the short films. I haven't seen it. Is a Dear Basketball. Kobe Bryant is a producer. So Kobe Bryant, Oscar-nominated producer. Just want to put that out there.
The more you know. What about any of the documentary feature or shorts?
I've seen documentaries, but none of these.
All right, go through them.
Let's see. So for short subject, it's Edith and Eddie. Heaven is a traffic jam on the 405. Heroin, Knife Skills, and Traffic Stop.
No, I haven't seen any of them.
And then for a feature documentary, you have Abacus, Small Enough to Jail, Faces Places, Icarus, Last Men in Aleppo, and Strong Island.
No, I haven't. But I know Icarus has a lot of steam because that one's people have talked to me about that one, but I haven't been able to see it.
Last Men in Aleppo has steam too.
Yeah, I've heard of Last Men in Aleppo, and I've heard of Faces Places. I haven't seen any of these. I have seen documentaries, but I haven't none of these. So I don't know. I have literally no input on which one's gonna win here.
Right. Yeah, same here. I'm just gonna skip these. We're gonna go into best foreign language film. I haven't seen any of these either, but I do have a pick of who I think might win. So best foreign language feature is A Fantastic Woman, The Insult, Loveless, On Body and Soul, and The Square. Fantastic Woman's getting a lot of buzz. It just opened this week at my art house, and I do definitely want to check it out probably in the next couple of weeks. But so that's gonna be my pick. So there's a lot of steam behind that one.
Okay.
I have heard about Fantastic Woman, and I've also heard of The Square. The other 3, literally never heard of them. So again, just based on buzz, I would go Fantastic Woman or The Square, but I honestly have I can't judge on merit on these.
Draven, did you see any of these?
No, I was grabbing another beer here, but no, I haven't.
Okay, so now moving on. Best animated feature: Boss Baby. Why the fuck is this here? The Breadwinner, Coco, Ferdinand. That's right, a John Cena film has been nominated for an Oscar, and Loving Vincent. So I mean, it's got to be Coco.
So I haven't seen Ferdinand, but to be fair, to give it its credit, a lot of parents that I know that have kids that took their kids to see it all said, you know what, it's actually pretty good. I haven't seen it. I can't judge for myself, but from what I've heard, it's actually not bad. Boss Baby, I think pretty much everyone agrees shouldn't be in here. That should be fucking Lego Batman spot. I don't care what anybody says. Boss
Baby's actually on my worst of 2017 list.
I haven't seen it, but I know it's not good. That's all I know.
It's not.
Loving Vincent is actually on Netflix right now. It's actually on my list to watch in the next week or so. So I hope to get to that before I see the Oscars. To me, this is no brainer that Coco is gonna win this.
Yeah,
there's
it has to.
no way. This is the Pixar award. Every time there's a Pixar movie nominated, it wins. So like, there's
Except for
no way it
Cars.
doesn't. Oh well, but Cars never gets nominated.
Yeah, but to be fair, they set the bar, so somebody
Yeah.
come and knock them off.
Exactly.
Best adapted screenplay: Call Me by Your Name, The Disaster Artist, which is its sole nomination this year, Logan, which is awesome, Molly's Game, and Mudbound. So this is a good category, actually. The geek in me wants Logan to get this. Absolutely,
Oh, Logan was phenomenal. I think that was like a real movie. Fuck the genre shit. That's like a legitimate dramatic
top
piece.
10.
It's just a great film, and I hope it wins. But it's probably gonna go to Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, that's.
I wouldn't mind Disaster Artist winning this either, to be honest. But yeah, the safe pick is probably going to be Call Me by Your Name for this category.
My head says Call Me by Your Name. My heart says Logan. So.
Yeah, same here. And then for best original screenplay, The Big Sick, Get Out, Ladybird, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards.
This is hard.
This is
a super competitive one, actually.
Man, I want all of them to win.
Because I don't like Three Billboards as much as everyone else does, but I recognize that it's a really popular, a really well-regarded movie. I actually don't know who wins this. This is a really hard one to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Shape of Water, for as much as I love it, it's like I said, it's a very formulaic. So, Get Out
get this. I think Get Out's gonna get this.
But even Get Out, like, it uses so many tropes from other genre films. Now, it's a great film. It's in my top 10, but is it really best original screenplay when it's pretty much Stepford Wives?
That said, I could almost see, like, because it doesn't have a shot at winning the best picture, I could almost see voters like giving this like it's like a screenplay like the consolation prize. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's true.
I think that's gonna be my pick. I'm gonna pick Get Out for this.
I don't think Get Out will win. I think it has a shot. I don't think it will. I don't know who to pick. If I want for who I want to win, I would pick Big Sick just because I think that's like the underdog in this category.
That was a great film too.
That
was a great film.
It's a great film, and it's like the underdog of the category, so I kind of want it to win, but I don't think it will. I don't know. I actually can't pick a winner here.
The safe pick will probably be Ladybird. Actually, that's probably like going to be like the front runner for this. But it's like you said, it is super competitive. Like I can't really honestly say who it is, but my pick's going to be Get Out just because I'm rooting for that movie right now. So. But
all right.
Now we move on to the Big Six here. Best Supporting Actress: Mary J. Blige for Mudbound, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread, which I was very happy to see get nominated, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, and Octavia Spencer for Shape of Water. I mean, you can narrow it down to me, honestly, Allison Janney, Leslie Manville, and Laurie Metcalf.
I got Allison Janney, bro. Because you know what was freaky? She literally took over the spirit of the real lady, bro. Remember they showed her at the end, the real lady, and it's like it was still like Allison Janney, like everything. She just captured that character so perfect, and
Allison Janney wins this. I think all these performances are actually really. Mary J. Blige was really good in Mudbound. I didn't actually know she could act, but she was really good in Mudbound. Octavia Spencer's the only weird one. Like I like Octavia Spencer, but I don't. I guess I just wasn't blown away by this one in Shape of Water as much as I like Shape of Water. I feel like it was a good performance, but was it like best top 5 of the year? I don't know.
No.
But I mean, I'm not going to complain too much about her being in there, but like the other 4, I think were phenomenal. But I think Allison Janney takes this.
Yeah, definitely.
And
that was a great movie. That was a great fucking movie too.
I really liked I, Tonya.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that movie. And we reported, I think, on the last episode. For Best Supporting Actor, Willem Dafoe, our boy Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson for Three Billboards, Richard Jenkins for Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. Essentially, this is the fuck you Kevin Spacey nomination. And Sammy Rockwell, bro, the Alpha for Three Billboards. That's who I'm picking because I love Sammy Rockwell. He's awesome.
I gotta go with Sam Rockwell.
Yes, I'm gonna pick him.
I think Sam Rockwell has this locked down. I think he's winning.
Like he had to kind of become like 3 different people in that movie, and as far as like characters and emotions. I mean, he went from being the heel to the baby face. I mean, he was all over the place, and he was believable. So when I think about these kind of awards, I think like, what did you bring to the table that made you get out of your comfort zone? What did you bring to that? That's why when like what's his name when Renner, when he was nominated for the one that Ben Affleck directed,
The Town.
The Town, it was like, dude, all he was like a stereotypical heel, like, and it was like he got all this praise, and it was like, what are you doing to bring to the character? That's why like a lot of like the Michael Shannons of the world, they kind of get pigeonholed. Like now Michael Shannon just plays Michael Shannon, so it's like he's gonna have to do something that's not Michael Shannon for me to ever like take him seriously as far as. But if he gets hired to play Michael Shannon and he does a great job playing Michael Shannon and he gets nominated for an award for that, I'm like, well, he just played Michael Shannon, So as Sam Rockwell, he really had to do a lot in that performance, and he did a good job, So that's, and Richard Jenkins would be my second pick.
I think Sam Rockwell will get this. There's a part of me that wants Woody Harrelson to get it though, because as much as I think Rockwell did a great job in that movie, I think Harrelson his performance was less showy, but I think was excellent in that film.
Yeah.
Great work from all of these guys in this category. Best Actress, Sally Hawkins for Shape of Water, who honestly probably should be the one that wins after the glowing review we just gave her performance earlier in the show. Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards, Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, and Meryl Streep, the token Meryl Streep nomination for The Post. The safe pick here is Frances McDormand. She's been winning everything else lately, so I mean, why not? Right.
I thought Margot Robbie was the weakest part of I, Tonya. I thought everybody around her did a great job. She did a good job. Don't get me wrong, but you can't. She's just so beautiful, and it's like you can't make her look ugly as much as hard as they tried or trashy. And it was she did okay, but when you're compared to like Frances McDormand and 3 Billboards, it's just not gonna happen. That's who I think is gonna take it.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I can see that point with Margot Robbie. I mean, they did try to make her all trashy, but she still kind of looked like the hottest white trash in the trailer park.
Because you think of that movie. Like, you think of that movie, and like Sebastian Stan did a phenomenal job.
He was awesome in that movie. Yeah, he was.
And we talked about Allison Janney, and even the fat guy that fucks everything up. He also did a pretty goddamn good job.
Oh, the fat guy, the neck beard, bro.
Yeah. And the best part is at the end, like when they show the real ones, is like because that character. You feel it's a car. There's no way a person like that existed in the real world, right? But sure enough, there he is at the end.
And you can find like the whatever it was, like Dateline or whatever that show was that did the interview with him. You can find that interview online, and it's like, holy shit, he actually said all these fucking weird things on camera to like a national TV audience. That was not made up. I was like, Jesus.
Now, Draven, just a little sidebar here. Do you think that fat guy is representative of your KLB listeners?
Well, he might be. Maybe he's a fan.
He's a man, so that's all that matters. So for Best Actor, Timothy Chalamet for Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis for Phantom Thread, Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out, Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour, and Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel.
That's the fuck you James Franco spot right there.
That's the fuck you James Franco spot, which is unfortunate, but
you know what? I mean, this is Gary Oldman's award. If he doesn't win it, I think second place would be Daniel Day-Lewis. Like, Daniel Kaluuya was really good in this. Denzel was good in Roman J. Israel, but I don't think it's a very good movie.
That movie sucked. Yeah, but he was great in it.
Yeah, that movie was so mismarketed. Like, cause like the whole that trailer made it seem like it was gonna be this thriller, and then that thriller aspect happens in like 10 minutes at the very end of the movie, and it gets resolved right away. So like, I was like,
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good movie, but he was really good in it. Timothy Chalamet, he was fine. I guess I just wasn't blown away by him in this movie. Like, I think
I wasn't either.
Like, I think kind of like you said about Margot Robbie, I think everyone around them was good, and he was fine, but I don't think he was best actor good.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, to me, when we're having these kind of debates, it's like, could you plunk out Daniel Kaluuya and put somebody else in there and you get the same performance? I would say you could. I think so. I think, and that's the answer to that. And I mean, could you plunk out Daniel Day-Lewis and get the same performance from somebody else from Phantom Thread? The answer to that is probably not. Or Gary Oldman, probably not. Or even Denzel. But as far as Daniel Kaluuya, I definitely think he's replaceable, and that's why he's probably the least deserving one of all the five here.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree with that as well. I mean, he did give a great performance, and I was very happy to see him nominated. But he was probably, I mean, he could have been swapped up for someone like a James Franco if he wasn't going through shit right now, or somebody else, you know.
Yeah,
but,
James Franco is definitely getting punished.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's a real shame on his part. But then again, like you said, Timothy Chalamet, he was just dwarfed by Armie Hammer's charisma, so he became like the least important part of that movie.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I mean, this is Gary Oldman's year. He's most likely going to get this one. Best director, Christopher Nolan, which I was very happy to see get his first director nod for Dunkirk. Jordan Peele, I was very happy to see up here too for Get Out, and Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird. PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson for Phantom Thread, and our boy Guillermo for The Shape of Water. And that's gonna be my pick. For as much as I love
think
Nolan,
he wins. I think he wins.
Yeah, Del Toro's getting.
I think Nolan is gonna have like a
Scorsese run.
He's gonna have a Scorsese run. I'm not saying his films are on par with Scorsese or that he makes the same kind of films, but he's gonna have a run where he gets nominated like every year or every other year that he has a film, and then he just doesn't win for like years or decades, and then one day he makes one, and we're like, oh right, we should give Nolan one. So like,
and isn't it be like a middle of the road one, like The Departed? It ain't gonna be one of his best ones.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not one of Scorsese's.
I love The Departed, but he should have gotten it for other ones way before The Departed.
Oh, that I can agree with. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what was nominated that year, but for like The Departed, like if you were to tell me that's the one he won the Oscar for, I'd be like, really, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. But I do love The Departed, though. I will say that.
So I guess we're all picking Guillermo for this, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then our main event of the evening, the Joe Anoa'i versus Brock Lesnar of the awards.
Yeah.
Best Picture of the year. You have Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. That's going to be my pick for this because it is. I mean, the spoilers here. This is my number one film of 2017.
I got to go with The Shape of Water because it's my number one film of.
The Post, I think, is one of those movies. I was talking earlier about how like it's. I'm not picking it, by the way. I'm just saying. I just kind of want to comment on it. It is another one of those movies where, like, 20 years ago, this absolutely would have been nominated. But, like, nowadays, you see it, you're like, really? This is in there?
Yeah, the Post was very by the numbers to me.
I think Spielberg was banking on this to be like Spotlight, and it wasn't. You know, it wasn't.
I don't know. I liked it. It was fine. It was enjoyable. But afterwards, I was like, okay, not Best Picture, though. Like, it was certainly, like... I mean, it's certainly like very relevant with like you know corrupt presidents and things like that. I could certainly see why it was made in 2017, but like it's not.
let's just say corrupt presidents and call it a day.
Yeah, but it was entertaining. It was certainly entertaining, and I actually think like Bob Odenkirk didn't get enough credit for his role. I think he was really good in that movie.
He's great, yeah.
But Best Picture, like this, it does not belong here.
No.
But anyway, my pick to win is Three Billboards. My pick that I want to win is Shape of Water.
Yeah, and I would say that Get Out is a dark horse, just because
I think so.
For political reasons and stuff like that we talked about earlier.
And I would say Call Me by Your Name is a dark horse as well in that regard.
Sure, yeah. And so, but the safe bet for me would be Shape of Water, and that's the one I want. So we're synced up on that.
Not to be like super cynical about this, but I'm going to be really cynical about this. To me, like the Academy is going to be like, well, we already gave the Oscar to the gay movie last year. We're not going to give it to the gay movie this year.
You're right.
Like I'm not saying
that's how they would think.
I'm not saying that as a disparaging remark. Because I actually that's not how I mean it. I'm just saying I could see the typical Academy voters like, well, Moonlight got it last year, so we are like, why?
And
we're not
it was a gay and black movie, so two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Like, well,
that rules out Get Out.
Year, so we're gonna go back to like the movies we want to pick this year. Like I don't see Call Me by Your Name winning this.
So maybe Ladybird. No, that's also yeah. No, we're gonna go with The Shape of Water.
I always had plenty of women. So those are our Oscar predictions for this year. The ceremony's next Sunday, March 4th.
How quick do you think they're gonna make a wrong movie announced joke into the ceremony?
Well, they've already been doing that on Twitter all week, and we're still over a week away. So
all right, well, never mind then.
But that was a classic fuck up right there. That's like a fuck up.
I think our boy Mark Hamill made that joke. I think because he said, I think he wrote in a tweet that he's going to be a presenter at the Oscars. So he said a mental note to himself like, "Don't announce La La Land as Best Picture winner," or some shit. So because we're going back to that.
The guy that buried The Last Jedi, then he found out he was going to get another payday, and all of a sudden he's not burying it anymore.
I'm not burying it anymore.
That was the best part.
Okay. So let's segue into our the real main event of the show. Is our best and worst of 2017. But I want to kind of preface it because we did Dolph and I did Last Jedi in episode 101. But let's get Draven's take on it very briefly before we move on to our other film. So tell me about Last Jedi a little bit, Draven. What did you think?
Okay, so you know what? This is not in my worst films because okay, this is a very conflicting film for me because as a film I had fun watching it. But I was very disappointed at a lot of aspects of that film. Now, here's what I got to say about The Last Jedi, because, you know, as a filmmaker that I've been in the past, I'm a huge proponent. If you're an artist, you have to make your vision. I'm completely behind filmmakers that do that, because then we get this assembly line of movies, and that's something we don't like either. And I think fanboys tend to kind of claim ownership to a lot of franchises, and when they don't get what they want, they tend to lash out. Now, with that said, I do think that the Star Wars franchise, because it's kind of a monster and it has a life of its own, a filmmaker should take that into consideration. I would say that with maybe like 95% of franchises or films, I would totally disagree with that statement. But for this film in particular, if I was to get the reins, I would definitely respect the established mythology and a lot of the fanboys' ideas of what they want, because Star Wars is different. Star Wars it's a world of its own, and you can't go in there and just fuck it all up because you're this auteur or this guy that wants a different vision or whatever. And so that was my thoughts coming out of the theater. I'm like, this guy just completely did what he wanted to do, and I have a sense that he didn't even really watch The Force Awakens at times, because there's certain things that didn't really match up with the predetermined mythology that was established in Force Awakens.
He actually started writing it during Force Awakens filming.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think he wrote it even before that movie came out.
So there was a lot of aspects to me, and of course everybody has to play the political game, right? But I really felt that he fucked J.J. Abrams over on this one, because now J.J. has to pick up the pieces. And also, when I saw the film, it really answered a lot of questions. It answered why the Lost World guy the Jurassic World guy left, because I could see he saw, so certain things started making sense to me, you know. And I feel like Rian Johnson, what he did was that he played the political game perfectly with like the Kathleen Kennedys of the world and Disney, and that's what he did right. And so he got his way. But he really did a lot of damage to that franchise. I really feel that he did a lot of damage. Now, the film itself is not a bad film. Again, it was fun. There's certain aspects of it, like, for example, the Finn storyline. I think his arc from what was established in Force Awakens, him dying and sacrificing himself, would have been perfect right there. Right. Because his whole thing was whether he could, because you could tell since Force Awakens that his whole idea of he doesn't know if he's a hero or if he's a villain, and he's conflicted by that. And it's not till he meets the Benicio character that he knows that there's certain shades of gray, and it's okay to be that. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be all or nothing. And so with that inner conflict within him, where do you go from here with that? You know, what are we going to do? Are we going to follow him and Rose with their little... It's going to become so predictable. I feel that Rey got completely buried. You know, what arc does she have left? You know what I'm saying? Like there's not... So it's like... And then she kind of... The third act is weird because she kind of vanishes for a long time, which is kind of... I don't know what was up with that. Obviously, I don't how they treated Luke. I don't really care because I was never a Luke fan to begin with. As far as like, I mean, I like the character, but he's not my guy in the Star Wars universe. You know, Han Solo was my guy. So but I understand the fanboys that got really upset because Luke did a lot of un-Luke things, in that film. But my counter to that has always been, well, people change in 30 years. You can't, you're not the same person you were 30 years ago.
We said that as well, I think, in our review.
But there was also little things like when he does the brush up on the shoulder. That was kind of like, to me, that was kind of pandering a little bit the wrong way.
That was more of a Han thing, if you really think about it. That's something Han would do rather than Luke. But
right, and so there was that. And I thought the film itself was kind of spotty, even from a technical perspective. Like there's this scene that I've asked everybody, and everybody's kind of like that's kind of true. Like when Rey comes down at the end of the film, and she comes in the Millennium Falcon with Chewie, she sees where they're at because she starts blasting the ATVs or whatever they're called, the ATTs.
Yeah.
But then she gets lost, bro. Like, remember, so she comes in and she has the big hero shot. She starts blasting the ATVs, and then she takes off again, and then she vanishes for like 15-20 minutes of the film when they're doing the battle. And then at the end, she comes back and just like, Chewie, where are they at? And I'm thinking, you just fucking there's a big battle right in front of you where I'm sure there's smoke and gunfire. And she's like, what, Chewie? So are you telling me that this broad was going around in circles, like when we get lost when we're going to the mall and she can't find the battle? And then finally she finds the cave. It's like, there they are. And then she goes. And I'm like, that's just shoddy filmmaking, it's like when you violate the, what do they call it in film school? The division line, the 360 division is like,
yes.
It's just from a technical filmmaking point of view, it's just kind of weird because it kind of threw me out because I was like, you were just in this battle and now you can't find the battle. You just got lost. So there was little things like that, I mean, obviously some characters didn't get their due. I thought the new creatures they introduced was all just pandering towards the toys,
porgs.
The porgs, the crystal dogs and the horses. The political statements, were kind of overbearing too. Like, when Chewie can't eat one of them little porks and stuff, it's like, don't eat meat.
I think people made more of that than I think that was just a joke. I honestly don't think that was political.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. But what about the whole animal rights issue when they're in the casino world?
No, that definitely is a statement. But I think the pork thing was just a joke.
And we get it, rich people are evil, and it was just there was way too many political statements in what's supposed to be what George Lucas intended to be a space opera where it was a basic story. All of a sudden it gets more convoluted with all these messages, and I just didn't like it. And so to me, my final thoughts on this film is that I came out indifferent, and that's really sad because I think I would rather have hated this film or really loved it, but for me to come out of it indifferent, that's, as a filmmaker, that's the last thing you want. So that's what I came out. I was like, fuck it. It's and worse yet, and I think this is what a lot of fans film, like, they didn't leave me enough to want to come back for episode 9. There's nothing there for me to want. What are we gonna see, another like rebels against fucking the Empire battle again? It's like that's so I guess if you were to ask me, I didn't like it as much as I liked it, but I'm really just indifferent about it. Like, I just didn't care.
We talked about this on the last episode where I was pretty much on the fence, borderline towards not liking it. Adolfo and I had a good debate, had a good discussion, and he kind of brought me around to the light side, let's just say. So I like the movie now. From the dark side, right?
No, but you know what? I will admit that if somebody talks me, I might come back around. That's because I don't have no investment in it. So if somebody talks me up, I will probably say, you know what? It was actually a good film. And then also if somebody sways me to the other side, I'll probably agree with them too, because again, I don't have, and I wanted that investment. I wanted to get out there thinking, fuck, episode 9 is gonna be the shit. Now we don't know if JJ has to pick up the pieces and he's gonna wreck on some stuff, and then the Snoke thing. Now, I will say this about the Snoke scene. The actual cinematography and the staging and the blocking, all that shit, that was phenomenal. Good, I popped. That was awesome, really, all right? But at the end of the day, from a storyteller's perspective, that is a character that needed more. It needed more depth, and it needed to be explained a little more. Only for the fact that The Force Awakens gave us that idea. Had that Force Awakens not been there to give us that idea, I would have been fine with it. But when you do that, You know what this is? This is the equivalent of hot shot booking in wrestling, where they'll have a world title change just to pop a rating. So
That's pretty good.
I understand what Ryan Johnson did, because at the end of the day, his justification is, well, Kylo, this is it. Kylo has officially turned. That's it. There ain't no coming back, because he has killed both of his father figures, and I understand all that. But you sacrifice all that. Essentially, he put all his eggs in Kylo's basket. That's the bottom line of this film. Where Force Awakens was going to introduce you to this world of various villains, Ryan Johnson was like, nope, I want something different, and I'm just gonna throw everything on Kylo, and he's gonna carry all the heat for the entire film, which is fine. It was an artistic choice, but you have to really consider the fan base in a franchise like this.
So I agree with most of what you said, like as far as the structural problem of the film, and I don't want to get into the whole thing because we already did like over an hour on it on an old show.
That's fine.
So I agree with the structural story points. Like I agree there was a lot of structural problems, but to me, all the reasons the fanboys hated the movie are the reasons I liked it. I liked that it pissed off the fanboys because I didn't want like a by the number Star Wars movie. Like I got something that was completely unexpected. It did not
Yeah.
deliver anything I expected it to. And like cuz I thought we were going to get a whole new trilogy of Snoke and being the Emperor and Kylo being Vader and then Rey being Luke Skywalker, and like we already saw that, an entire trilogy of that, and I didn't want to see that again. And by killing off Snoke in the middle of the movie, I was like fucking fantastic, because now I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do, and now Kylo's the main heel, and that's who should have been the main heel to begin with. And I'm sorry, fanboys, Snoke sucks. He was a terrible character. I'm fucking glad he got killed. Send me all the hate mail. He fucking sucked. He was shitty. He was a stupid CGI character, and I'm glad he's fucking dead. So I'm so happy that they pissed off all the fanboys with that. I don't care about the theories and anything else. Like I only care what's on the screen. And I know not everybody hated it because they disproved their theories. I know that's one thing D gets really pissed off about. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there are a lot of people that were pissed off that their theories were disproven, and I'm glad that their theories were disproven, because there's more to life than Star Wars. Get a fucking life. So I like that they just totally pissed everybody off, and that actually makes me want to see the next movie. And I agree with you. Killing him off in the middle of the movie is kind of like Vince Russo-y swerve booking. I totally get that. But sometimes you can do one of those just to fuck with people and see what happens. I would agree, though, if you keep doing that over and over and over and over again, that's when it becomes shitty.
Well, and also we didn't get a classic lightsaber fight in this entire film. And don't give me that whole after Snoke dies, where they're fucking up the guards. I don't count that. I'm saying they teased us with Luke versus Kylo. They didn't deliver on that. That would have been awesome. And so there's a lot of little teases. And I felt that a classic lightsaber duel is a staple of every Star Wars film, and we didn't get it here at all. And little things like that, and so that was like, but no, again, coming from the filmmaker point of view, I agree with your points exactly, because the you want to give something different. You don't want to give the same shit over again. You do, but I try to take the fanboys into consideration too, because this is, and again, this is rare that I'll say this, but they do have a right, because this is a big deal. Star Wars is I'm sad to say, but some of people's lives revolve around Star Wars. We all seen documentaries, we know. So it's like, it's kind of fucked up, And but you know what? At the end of the day, they'll all be there in 2 years.
People can bitch and moan all they want, and like I know people just like, oh look, it didn't make as much money as whatever. It made over $1 billion. Disney's fine. Disney is not concerned about the franchise. They don't care if it got negative reviews from fans, and all they care about is that bottom line, and that bottom line, over $1 billion. They're perfectly satisfied with how this movie performed, and all those people that bitched and moan are gonna be there on opening night, December whatever 2019. Just like all the fucking marks that say Vince is stupid and hate, they're all gonna watch WrestleMania this year. So like, yeah. It's the same thing. So like I that's why you can't, like, I know you say you should take, and you shouldn't disrespect the fanboys, but I don't think they disrespected them. I know some people think they did. I don't think it's a disrespect. I think it's a keeping you on your toes kind of thing. I know people take it as a fuck you. I don't see it as a fuck you.
What about the overbearing? This is something that did get to me. I don't know if you agree with me, Onar. The overbearing message of we're gonna start over. It's all over the movie. Like, oh, a new beginning.
Oh
you know,
yeah,
I'm gonna
I absolutely agree. That's it's in there and it's deliberate. And I guess I don't. It doesn't bother me. I guess it just didn't bother me.
I like how Snoke did bury Kylo because ever since Force Awakens, I'm like, this motherfucker has no reason to wear that fucking mask. Like, this is literally a Darth Vader. It's a Darth Vader fanboy going around with a fucking mask he doesn't need, bro. And it fucked with me. And then fucking Snoke just buries the shit out of him in the first 5 minutes of this
Which
movie.
was awesome, though. I love that part.
And then okay, from the cynical side of me, I do love how Ryan fucked with the audience because he made Snoke so goddamn indestructible in those 2 minutes where he has the dialogue. Like, this motherfucker is fucking with Rey. He has Rey floating up in the air while he's burying Kylo and he's shooting lightning bolts. And he has all these things going on where you're like, I've never seen a fucking Sith Lord or whatever he was that powerful. And then he just fucking gets cut in half. Well, that was pretty clever. That scene, I do like that scene, bro. That scene's fucking phenomenal. Where the camera was set up, how he fucking goes to pieces, and then like, what about General Hux's complete retcon of Force Awakens, bro? Like that's not even the same fucking character. Like, this guy literally became the Three Stooges from like Force Awakens to fucking and what's the name? Domhnall Gleeson did a great job. I thought he was the best performer in the movie as far as getting things to work with. Him and what's his name, Kylo. But yeah, man. So that was another character that got completely changed for comedy relief, and then Kylo showing up with the Great Khali fucking wacky body and shit for no reason, with the fucking pecs. So yeah. So I don't know. I'll revisit it.
And because you brought up comedy, I do want to say I know a lot of people bitched about comedy, but the thing is, have you watched the original trilogy? Have you watched fucking C-3PO and R2 the entire fucking movie? That's all they're doing is comedy the entire fucking movie. Like, it has no less or more comedy than any other Star Wars film. I think it's just one thing that people wanted to bitch at, but it's the same amount of comedy as any other Star Wars film has.
Yeah, but this was more like suspension of disbelief kind of. Cause like, I'll give you an example, like when Poe is fucking with Hux, like, you don't do that in a real fight.
I agree. Maybe.
But this is what I was thinking when I saw that film. I was thinking, oh fuck, since Thor Ragnarok got so over, this is how they're all gonna be now, and that concerns me because I definitely don't want Infinity War to be like that. I do not want Infinity War because that to me is the movie that I'm more fucking jazzed about. I haven't been that jazzed for a movie in like 10 years, bro. That's the fuck. I'm looking forward to that movie.
That's 10 years of buildup right there.
But to be fair, I mean, Black Panther just came out, and it wasn't really like that.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, we'll have a couple more points to wrap up Last Jedi. First is that, like I said, Adolfo kind of convinced me. I've come around to liking the film, not loving it, but I come around to liking it. But it still has a bit of a bad aftertaste in my mouth. But I don't think that's ever going to go away. It's just one of those things that I think that first viewing kind of scarred me to that point, where I don't think I can really embrace. I can like it for what it is as a Star Wars movie, but I don't think I'm ever going to really embrace it like a lot of people have already done. But I think, Adolfo, did you want to say something?
Yeah, and just real quick, I defend the film. I'm not gonna say that it's one of the best of the year though. Like, it's clearly, to me, like it is far below the original trilogy, and it's below Force Awakens. It's, to me, about maybe a little bit below Rogue One and way above the prequels. So it's like it's above the prequels but below everything else. So it's still not great. But to me, I think the vitriol that it got was way over the top. That's all I'm saying. So like, yeah. I don't even think if I looked at all the movies I watched, I don't even think it makes my top 25. I think it's a fun movie, but it's not. It still has a lot of structural problem that I didn't appreciate and I didn't like, but the stuff that people are pissed off about, that's the stuff that I actually liked. So that's all I was gonna say.
Okay.
And then the other point I want to make, this is a question to Draven, because every time something fits this category, I want to get his opinion. So I need you to tell me right now, take your pick. What was the biggest waste of time? Finn and Rose's storyline in Last Jedi, Magneto floating around in the metal from Apocalypse, or The Rock with the flamethrower in Dallas?
No, it was Justin Theroux spending a whole day on set just to roll a couple dice. That was the fucking biggest waste of fucking. I mean, they hired a pretty goddamn good actor, and he just literally there to fucking roll a couple dice, and that was it.
Exactly. I was gonna kick him after that question, but I always pick the Rock with the flamethrower as a bigger.
No. I think Magneto floating in the air for fucking seemed like an eternity for doing absolutely nothing.
Nothing, bro.
Fucking yeah, that fucking grated me.
Fucking apocalypse.
To be fair, though, I think The Rock is still walking down to the ring with that thing.
Hey, folks, that's where we're going to end this episode, because when we recorded this, it ended up being like 4 hours long. So we're going to cut it here, and so join us next time for episode number 104, where we talk about the best of 2017. See you then.